My rent's your problem now, you make more, his brother said. My husband chimed in, he's family. Step up. I leaned in, smiled, and whispered, funny you said that, I just updated the finances. Their jaws dropped when they saw what I meant, I'd erase them from every account. Instantly. My name's Noelle, and I'm a 35-year-old software consultant living in Seattle. For the first 8 years of my marriage to Caleb, money was never a real issue. We weren't wealthy, but we lived comfortably. Caleb worked in construction, and I was a mid-level designer. Our incomes were pretty even, and we split things fairly. Everything changed 2 years ago. I was offered a role at a tech startup, high risk, high reward. I took it, worked my butt off, and within a year, I was promoted. Now, I make nearly triple what Caleb does. I never flaunted it. In fact, I kept our financial dynamics the same, I covered our usual expenses, put a little extra toward travel or house improvements, and even paid off Caleb's truck loan without a second thought. I didn't realize that quietly covering more and saying less would lead to entitlement. Enter Evan, Caleb's older brother. He's 39, chronically unemployed, and allergic to accountability. He hops between jobs and women like they're stepping stones, always landing somewhere worse. He's lived with us, temporarily, more times than I can count. Every time, it's the same script, just a few weeks, becomes 6 months, his stuff takes over our guest room, and I end up footing the grocery bill while he sleeps till noon. It got worse after my raise. Suddenly, Evan started making little comments like, must be nice raking in that tech money, or, I should have gotten into software, easy hours, big checks. I laughed it off, until he started asking for money. First, it was small, $200 here, just to tide me over. I said no. Then came the guilt trip. Then the sulking. Then, one night, the ambush. I was cooking dinner when Evan strolled into the kitchen, grabbed a soda, and said, casually, like asking for the salt. Hey, since you're the breadwinner now, you should help me with rent. It's only fair. I turned slowly. What? He leaned against the counter like he was discussing sports scores. I mean, I'm between jobs, you're making good money now, $1,300 a month is nothing to you. I blinked. I wasn't even angry yet. Just stunned. Then I looked at Caleb, expecting him to shut this down. Instead, he smirked. He's family, babe. We've helped him before. What's the big deal? That's when it hit me. The audacity wasn't Evan's, I expected it from him. But Caleb? My husband? The man who once praised me for following my passion? The man who celebrated with me when I got my promotion? He was smiling at the idea of me paying his brother's rent, like it was logical. Expected. I felt something in me harden. I took a deep breath, smiled, and said, you're right. Family helps each other. I'll make a financial adjustment. They both looked relieved. Evan even grinned like he'd just won a game. But they forgot one thing, I was the one holding the cards. The next morning, I cut Caleb off from my personal account. From then on, I only transferred my exact share into our joint account, nothing more. Then I audited our bills. Guess who had been paying for almost everything? Netflix, Prime, Evan's gym membership, Caleb's car insurance, all in my name. I canceled every non-essential charge. And I didn't stop there. I found a one-bedroom apartment for Evan in a gritty part of town, paid first and last month's rent, signed the lease in his name, and handed the landlord Evan's contact info. That night, Caleb tried to watch Netflix. Hey, did you forget to pay? I sipped my wine. Nope. Just made a financial adjustment. The next morning, his gym fob didn't work. His insurance company called about a missed payment. I shrugged again. Financial adjustment. Then I slid a manila folder across the kitchen table. Good news, I said sweetly. Evan's rent is officially covered. Here's his lease. He moves in next week. Caleb's smile vanished. Evan went pale. You can't be serious, Evan stammered. I am, I replied. You asked for rent. You got rent. But I thought. You thought I'd just hand you money and let you freeload in my house? Wrong girl. Caleb slammed his hand on the table. You didn't even talk to me about this. I looked him in the eye. Did you talk to me before offering up my money? Silence. That was the moment I knew, this wasn't just about Evan. It was about boundaries. Respect. Power. And how easily people think they can take from you when you quietly give. They forgot who I was before the money. But they're about to remember. The thing about betrayal is that it rarely arrives like thunder. It comes quietly. A smirk here. A shrug there. A casual comment wrapped in entitlement. That night, after I laid Evan's lease agreement on the table, the air in our house changed. It didn't explode, it curdled. Evan's reaction was immediate. "What the hell is this?" he barked, snatching the folder like I'd just handed him divorce papers. "You're kicking me out?" I stayed calm. Polite, even. "No," I said with a smile. "I'm giving you exactly what you asked for, rent money. Your own place. A fresh start. You can't be serious." His voice cracked. "I don't want to live alone. I thought I was staying here until I found something better." I tilted my head, feigning confusion. "You said it was only fair. You said I should help." Caleb's face had gone slack, the same way a man looks after stepping on a landmine he forgot he buried. "This isn't what we meant," he muttered, almost sulking. "Oh," I replied, casually sipping from my glass. "Because it's exactly what I heard." They didn't get it yet, not fully. They thought this was an overreaction. That I was emotional. But I wasn't angry. Not in the way they assumed. What I was done. I didn't scream. I didn't slam doors. I just began removing my support, the way you slowly shut down an old machine. I started with the joint account. From that point on, I deposited only what was necessary: rent, utilities, groceries. Nothing more. Then I went through every single transaction tied to me. Netflix? Gone. Amazon Prime? Gone. Evan's DoorDash habit tied to my card? Blocked. Caleb's gym membership? Cancelled. Car insurance? Also cancelled. Turns out, I had been quietly carrying the whole ship while they lounged in the sun. When I turned off the lights, it wasn't out of spite. It was clarity. They'd mistaken generosity for obligation. The next morning, it began. "Hey," Caleb said, frowning at his phone. "The gym won't let me in." I didn't look up from my laptop. "Oh. Must be that adjustment I made." Later that afternoon, he stormed into the kitchen, holding a letter from the insurance company. "Why the hell is my car insurance unpaid?" I leaned against the counter. "Because you never paid it." "I did. And now I don't." "You can't just do that." I raised an eyebrow. "Funny. You didn't say that when you and your brother decided I should cover his rent." He sputtered for a response, but there was nothing left to say. That evening, I packed up every single item Evan owned, his clothes, his worn-out laptop, even that ridiculous bobblehead collection, and delivered it to his new apartment. No warning. No conversation. Just a note taped to the box. "Welcome home. Enjoy your independence." When Evan returned that night and saw his room stripped bare, he lost it. "You can't just move my stuff." "I didn't," I said, flipping through a magazine. "I relocated it. You've got your own address now, remember?" Caleb sat on the couch, rubbing his temples like he was the victim. Like this was all too much for him. But what none of them seemed to understand was this: I had carried this house. I had carried both of them, financially, emotionally, for years. And now I was just letting go. The quiet part was the hardest. The hours between conversations, the heavy silences at dinner. Caleb looked at me like I was a stranger, like he didn't recognize the woman in front of him. But the truth. He never really saw me. He only saw what I could give. Now that I was no longer offering it, the man sitting across from me didn't know what to do. I watched them unravel, Evan in a panic, Caleb grasping for control, and for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt something new bloom in my chest. Peace. Not revenge. Not victory. Just the soft, steady knowledge that I had finally remembered who I was. And that was just the beginning. There's a special kind of heartbreak that doesn't make you cry. It just silences you. The night Caleb stumbled in drunk, muttering half-coherent accusations about me destroying our family, I didn't flinch. I'd seen enough in the past few weeks to know this man was slipping, not just emotionally, but morally. "You think you've got it all figured out," he slurred, slamming his keys on the counter. "Playing boss. Acting like you don't need anyone." I stood still. Calm. "What are you talking about, Caleb?" He leaned in close, smiling the way cowards do when they think they've landed the final blow. "You called a lawyer, right?" Funny thing, babe, you called our lawyer. My stomach tightened. What does that mean? He stepped back, picked up a beer from the fridge, and took a long, deliberate sip like he was in control of the moment. You think you're so smart, he said, but I've been preparing for this for months. And then he said it. I've been moving money around too. The room blurred for a second. I don't know if it was rage or panic, but the floor didn't feel steady anymore. I didn't let it show. Explain, I said, keeping my voice flat. Oh, I will, he said, walking toward the living room like he was proud of himself. You're not the only one who can make adjustments. I let him ramble. Let him think he was the one playing chess. Then I waited. That night, when he passed out on the couch, beer can still in hand, television flashing late-night reruns, I opened my laptop. And the silence in that moment was louder than any scream. Because I saw it. The withdrawals. Small, almost unnoticeable. $150 here. $300 there. Sometimes just $50. But they added up. Over $15,000. Gone. From our joint savings. Over the span of 6 months. And the worst part? The withdrawals started before the conversation about Evan's rent. Before I cut him off. Before I said no. This wasn't a reaction. This was a plan. He had been quietly bleeding me dry long before I ever said a word. I sat there, frozen. The cursor on the screen blinked like a heartbeat. And then I saw it, one final transaction. A loan. $20,000. In my name. My hands went cold. The application was dated a month ago. He had signed on my behalf, using saved information and forged digital consent. The money had been transferred to an account I didn't recognize, not our joint account, not his usual. This wasn't just financial abuse. This was identity theft. Fraud. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to shake him awake and demand an explanation. But what I felt more than anything was heartbreak. This was my husband. The man I shared a life with. The man who once made me coffee every morning before work. Who kissed my forehead when I was sick. Who danced with me barefoot in the kitchen on Sunday nights. And now. He was trying to bury me in debt while funneling our money into a secret account. I didn't sleep that night. I just stared at the ceiling, hands clenched into fists under the blanket, listening to his soft snore like it was a stranger's breath. The next morning, I called my lawyer. She listened quietly as I laid it all out, the transfers, the loan, the name on the account. You have enough, she said, her voice firm. We can act. You're not powerless here. I nodded, but a part of me still felt numb. How long had he been planning this? When did my husband stop being my partner and start being my enemy? But I wasn't broken. I was wide awake now. And I was going to find out just how deep this betrayal went. Because if Caleb thought this was a game, if he thought I was just another fool to manipulate, then he had no idea who he married. And he was about to find out. I didn't confront him right away. Not after discovering the missing $15,000. Not even after seeing the $20,000 loan in my name. I needed more than emotion, I needed strategy. Proof. Leverage. So I waited. I played the part. I cooked dinner. I asked about his day. I even laughed at a dumb joke he made about the neighbor's dog. And every night, I sat beside him on the couch like nothing was wrong, while inside, I was building a case brick by brutal brick. By the third day, I knew what I had to do. He was drunk again. Not sloppy like before, but the kind of drunk where men get chatty, overconfident. He sat on the back porch with a beer in hand and that smug, lazy grin that used to charm me but now just made my skin crawl. So I asked, lightly, where's the money? He chuckled, took a sip. You still on that, babe? I tilted my head, giving him that curious smile I'd perfected. Come on. Just tell me how smart you've really been. He leaned back in his chair like a king on a throne. Smart enough to not end up screwed when you pull your little stunts. I stayed quiet. And then, he opened the gates. I've been moving money since last summer, he said. Little things. Side accounts. Because I knew you'd pull something once you started making more. My pulse quickened, but I kept my face still. And the loan? I asked, my voice even. He shrugged. Collateral. In case you got nasty. That's when he smiled, slow, mean. You're not the only one who plans ahead. I looked at him, truly looked, and for the first time, I didn't see my husband. I saw a con artist. A coward. A man who had stood next to me at the altar and promised forever, while plotting a financial exit strategy the moment I out-earned him. But then, the final cut. He drained the last of his beer, set it on the table, and said, "You know what's funny? That loan, it wasn't even for me." I stared at him. What? He smiled again, proud. Her name's Talia. She needed help getting a place. Starting fresh. She's younger. Gets me in a way you never did. The world didn't spin. It shattered. All this time, while I paid the bills, made the home, carried the weight, he had been stealing from me to build a life with someone else. I felt nothing. Not rage. Not heartbreak. Just a cold, terrifying clarity. He was waiting for me to break. To scream. To fall apart. I didn't. Instead, I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and came back with a single manila folder. I dropped it in front of him. "What's this?" "Everything," I said. "Bank statements. Transfer histories. The loan you took in my name. And receipts tied to her." He flipped through them, eyes wide. "Where did you get all this?" "I have my ways," I said simply. But I wasn't done. I reached into my back pocket and pulled out my phone. "And this," I added, hitting play. His voice filled the air, the entire confession. Every word. Every smirk. Every lie. Captured. The silence that followed was thick enough to drown in. Then a second voice cut through the stillness. "Well, this is awkward." I turned. Standing in the hallway, arms crossed and eyebrows raised, was Evan. I had forgotten he was still crashing on our couch. Caleb turned ghost white. Evan sauntered in, holding up his phone. Heard the whole thing. Recorded it, too. Caleb lunged. But Evan stepped back. "Try me." "And me." I didn't move. Because suddenly, my useless brother-in-law had just become my star witness. Caleb looked at me, furious. "You're really going to let him?" "Yes," I cut in. "Because unlike you, he actually helped me for once." He stood there, chest heaving, caught in his own trap. And I smiled, not because I was happy. But because I was done. Done being used. Done being silent. Done being small. I filed for divorce the next morning. There was no delay, no hesitation, no second guessing. My lawyer, already armed with every document, every recording, every traceable theft Caleb had left behind, moved like a surgeon. Precise. Focused. Efficient. And I felt nothing. Not numbness. Just absence. The kind of emotional silence that follows after too many storms. I had loved Caleb once. Maybe too much. Enough to ignore the warning signs. Enough to excuse the shift in his tone when I started succeeding. Enough to cover his bills, then his brothers, then our entire lives. But love built on resentment dies quietly. And mine was already buried. We froze the accounts before he could take another dime. My lawyer filed a fraud claim on the $20,000 loan taken in my name. Since it was deposited into a third party's account, a woman I had never met, someone Caleb had no legal tie to, the bank launched a formal investigation. They even thanked me for the detailed paper trail. How poetic. The man who once told me I was too emotional to handle money was now being investigated for financial abuse. When Caleb was served, he came home in a rage. Slamming doors, muttering curses under his breath, shouting that I was overreacting, vengeful, cold. I didn't flinch. "You wanted control," I told him, my voice low and even. "Now you've got it. Control of your own life, your own finances, and your own consequences." He didn't understand at first, not really. He still thought he could fix it with charm or gaslighting or guilt. But when the fraud case hit his credit, when the accounts went dry, when his mistress dumped him the moment the money stopped flowing, that's when he cracked. And the twist. He had nowhere to go. His family, especially Evan, the same brother he once defended with smug superiority, refused to take him in. Yes, Evan. The screw-up. The parasite. He ended up paying me back half of what he owed. And Caleb? He had to move in with their parents. He'd call sometimes. Leave voicemails. Cry, then rage, then beg. He even sent a letter once. You'll regret this. No, Caleb. I already did. I regretted every time I dimmed myself to make you feel tall. Every time I handed you kindness and got manipulation in return. Every time I believed that loyalty was the same as love. But now I slept like a woman who had finally remembered her worth. The divorce was quick, cleaner than expected, given the mess he tried to leave behind. The courts ruled in my favor: financial misconduct, breach of trust, fraud. He walked away with a bruised ego and debt. I walked away with freedom. And silence. That beautiful, sacred kind of silence you only notice after years of walking on eggshells. I kept the house. Not just because I'd paid for most of it, but because it was mine before he tried to rot it from the inside. I repainted the kitchen. Replaced the mattress. Donated every glass, fork, or chair he ever touched. I bought new locks. New linens. A new life. One morning, I stood in my living room, barefoot, coffee in hand, the ceramic mug warm against my palms, and realized, this is what healing looks like. Not fireworks. Not revenge. Just peace. Earned. Unapologetic. And fully mine. I never responded to Caleb's last message. I didn't need to. He'd already heard everything he needed in a courtroom, from a judge, from the bank, from his own brother. But if I had, it would have been this. You didn't lose me when you cheated. Or lied. Or stole. You lost me when you underestimated who I'd become once I stopped saving you.